Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted business strategy. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the podcast especially for women in their 40s and beyond who know that business and personal development go hand in hand. Tune in each week for marketing, mindset, and personal growth strategies, along with inspiring stories from women around the world who are creating new businesses and lives that are personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. If you're looking to create a business and life you love, you're in great company. Let's find out what will unfold in your next chapter. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus, and I'm so delighted that you're here. Well, hello and welcome to episode 17 in the Your Next Chapter podcast. Now, this is a delightful conversation that I had with Melissa Jeffcott, who's a mum of three and a certified life coach who's down in Melbourne here in Australia. Now, Mel helps women on the other side of 40 reconnect with their purpose and their passion and their joy for life. And that came across so clearly in this conversation that we had. You know, the whole idea that was through and through it is that need for us to inject fun into everything that we do. And I love the references that Melissa is making to the fact that as we get older, we can begin to really let go of what other people think of us and to start to reconnect with what's important to us. She's got a wonderful story of getting to this point in her own life, her midlife extension, as we started to call it, and where she decided that she was seeing a lot of people who were having similar thoughts as her, like, where do I go next? What do I do? My kids are a little bit older. Classic next chapter business was blossoming up in the background. So what Mel did was she looked at her background and the type of skills that she already had, and in her case, a lot of qualifications and experience, especially in the psychology area. And then she started to blend that with what was really calling her and she was really curious about now. And that was coaching. And then she developed this fantastic blend of these two really powerful sets of skills. And she took the leap and created her own business, that other side of 40 life coaching. Now, this conversation was so powerful because of the ideas of starting from where you are with what you have now. Because I know that so many people listening to this podcast are dancing on that edge of jumping into their own business and perhaps concerned about getting it all perfect or getting it all right or, you know, what might happen. Well, as Melissa has shown us so clearly, what might happen could be an absolute delight. So we really both encourage you to take that chance and to move forward and try that new business or that new idea or that new hobby on for size. And as with all of the podcasts, there is a resource that goes along with this one, a really simple and delightful one that I encourage you to download. It's all about 4 easy ways to invite more fun into your life. And that is vital just in everyday life, but even more so when you're creating your own business, believe me. So to get your hands on that resource, simply go to angelarasmus.com/17. That's the number 1 and 17 download. And then you'll be able to find out those 4 easy ways to invite more fun into your life. Well, I know you're really going to enjoy this episode. It was a delight to talk with Melissa, and I look forward to hearing from you to find out the insights and the inspiration that you're also taking away on the other side of 40. Well, hello there, this is Angela Rasmus and welcome back to another episode of the Your Next Chapter podcast. Thanks for spending your time here with me today. And I'm delighted to be having what I know is going to be a delightfully wholehearted conversation with Melissa Jeffcott, a life coach from Melbourne here in Australia. Now, one of the reasons I know this will be a delightful conversation is before we hit record, we both confessed a secret love of Anne of Green Gables. And I think anyone who is a kindred spirit in that respect is definitely up for a great conversation. So, Melissa, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Well, one of the ways that I love to start off these conversations that we have is to find out a little bit more about how this thing that you're up to now in business and life is a next chapter for you. So can you give us a little bit of insight as to how this new direction has unfolded and opened up for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I just started my life coaching business only just over a year ago. So it's all relatively new for me. I guess I came to a point in my life in my 40s that I knew I wanted to do more, but I just wasn't sure what that was. And I knew I didn't really want to go back to what I was doing before I took time off to have my kids, and I was a stay-at-home mum for a few years. But I really had very little idea about sort of how to go about searching for what my purpose might be in life. And then I started to realise, well, actually, there were a lot of mums out there like me who felt the same. And I guess where I started from there is that I started to write a blog called The Other Side of 40. That helped me tap a bit more into my creative side, and then I started to think about how I could start to use some of my skills from before I was a stay-at-home mum. I have a background in psychology, and then I got into life coaching and started training in that, and now I work with women really who, just like me, who want to do something sort of more with their lives in their 40s, but are just not quite sure how to get there yet.
That's a subject that comes up a lot with so many of us, I think, especially as our children get a little older, if we've had families, and some more sort of space opens up, and we do begin to sort of question, well, what's next for me? So
exactly.
You were saying that finding, starting to look around and trying to tap into what that purpose may be, just that concept of purpose. Do you feel that there is, one purpose for, and only one purpose for us, or do you see that as sort of more multiple options, and it's just looking and searching for the ones that really, really feel best to you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I think through our lives, and I think it's changed a lot too over the sort of our generation. I think probably when a lot of us were young and finished school and went to uni, we were sort of thinking we were going to be in the one career for our whole lives. And I think now we live in a really great time in that there are so many different options out there, and the internet has provided so many different options as well. And so you really can, and as you say, I think often if in your 40s, if you've had children, there might be, have all started school, you have a little bit more space to start to think about some of these questions and what sort of things light you up and what sort of things you're interested in and what gives you joy when you do them. And you can just start to sort of spend a bit of time exploring all of that and asking yourself how different things make you feel. And I think, then, you can start to really see what lights you up and start to sort of focus on trying some different things. So there's definitely, more than one path that you can take in your life. And that's why, the concept of a next chapter is simply that. It's another chapter in your life that you're exploring and working through.
Yeah, it's another chapter in the book, isn't it? And that book can have
absolutely
heaps of chapters.
That's for sure.
I love that idea of, because what it seems to be that you're saying here is to really have a bit of curiosity. And I know that myself and quite a few women I've spoken to, we sort of can lose track of what is it that does light us up or give us joy and that type of thing. So it's really a case of perhaps almost giving permission to yourself to start to become aware, to start to really notice those things, and it's not selfish in any way, shape or form to start looking for the things that are good for you and not just those families we've been taking care of, yeah?
Oh, definitely. I think, I spent a lot of time in my 30s trying to be everything to everyone. I was trying to be a good wife, a good mum, a good sister, a great friend, and I was working part-time. I was trying to do my master's in psychology on the side. I was, it got to the stage where I was no good to anyone because I didn't give myself any time for me or do anything that really took care of myself. So I think, once I sort of made a decision that I just couldn't keep going the way I was going, and I ended up stopping what I was doing and taking some time to just be at home with my kids, that was the precursor, I guess, to my next chapter. And it really started once my youngest started school. And I had more time to give myself, as you say, permission to start to think about what is it that really I want to do with my life? What is it that lights me up when I do it? And what don't I want to do? I think we also have to rule out the things that we might feel some pressure perhaps to do, whether it comes externally or internally, but ruling out some of those things and then going, okay, well, what is it that, I can do that makes me feel good? Because I think, how you want to feel in life is a very important part of living a wholehearted life as well.
I think that's a really great point, this idea of, because quite often we sit there and think, well, I don't actually know what lights me up. I don't actually know what I want to do. So starting with a what I don't want list can then actually give you that great contrast. Well, I don't want to work 9 to 6, or I don't want to feel exhausted, or I don't want to be at the beck and call of everyone else, or
absolutely,
whatever the case may be. So perhaps that's a rallying call if you're listening now, guys. Decide what you don't want to do, and then you can start contrasting out from there. Well,
that's right.
One of the things that you say on your website is that in order to live your best life, you have to listen to your own needs and act on them. It is okay to put ourselves first now and then. So I completely agree with that one. That's the age-old, put your own oxygen mask on.
Absolutely.
We've just started touching on that in this conversation, but what about that, those little bits of guilt that can come up? I think we can get conditioned almost to a point that we can't or shouldn't put ourselves first, that, that's selfish. I like the idea of making ourselves first equal in our lives before we start talking about the business side. But how do you, or if someone was saying to you, I feel really guilty about that, how could we help to alleviate that sense of it's selfish to put yourself first?
Oh, yeah, look, I hear so many, and I guess I'm talking more about mums here, but it applies to a lot of women, but I particularly mums, I think, always think that, to be a good mum, and I think, our society has conditioned us to be like this too, that to be a good mum, you have to put everyone else's needs ahead of your own, and your sort of wants and needs and desires are squashed down to the bottom of the pile somewhere. And I can understand that. I used to be like that too. I thought I was being a good mum if I did everything for everyone. But I personally think that mummy guilt is highly overrated, and it really serves no one at all. I think, unless, I guess the other thing I think too is that I don't worry too much as I'm getting older. I don't worry too much what other people think of me either. So I know that if I do things that feel good for me, and I'm not hurting anyone around me, I'm not upsetting my kids or my husband, then it doesn't really matter what other people might think or judge me on. So I think giving yourself permission to do the things that are good for you, and whether that's taking a night, away for yourself, or whether it's, having going to a day-long retreat, or to do whatever that, gives you the energy and the ability to come out feeling good in all the other roles that you have to inhabit in your life, then, you should give yourself permission to do it. And I think sometimes people say, but, I don't think I could do it, or I don't think I'd be able to do it, and I always say, well, have you asked? Have you asked if your husband is okay that you would go and do this? Or have you asked if the grandparents can come and look after the kids so you and your husband can spend quality time together? Or, last year my husband had the opportunity to go to Greece for 2 weeks for a seminar at a conference, and he invited me to go along. And my first thing was, well, I can't do that. 2 weeks away from my 3 kids and my work and everything, that's just too hard. But you know what, I thought this will be really good for our relationship. This will be really good for me to have some time for myself like that. So we made it happen. It wasn't a click of the fingers and it just happened straight away, but I made the logistical aspects of it happen. The grandparents came, looked after the kids. They were fine. They survived. It was all good. And sometimes when you do put yourself first like that, you come back and you really inhabit those roles of being a great mother or being a good wife or in your business with so much more heart, and you do it so much better because you have really had that time to nourish yourself and look after yourself.
Oh, I love that. I love that philosophy. And the point that you're making there about what was coming up as I was listening to it is our need to break that automatic, I can't do that, or that's not possible. That's almost like a default reaction that we have, whether it be to, taking tell you what, if I'd been offered 2 weeks in the Greek islands, nothing would have gotten in the way to that. That's a fantasy. I'm desperate to get over there. But whatever it is for you, it might be just as simple as, taking a night off, going away for a weekend, whatever the case may be, starting a business. But we need to be aware that if our default position has been, that's too hard because it's something new, or it's something a bit challenging, or it's something that we feel we don't have all the information or the skills that we need yet, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that we need to find what are the gaps. Is
Yeah.
this
Sorry.
okay? No, that's okay. I'm just thinking, is this something that I really want to do? And if it is, then let's find those gaps that we need to close.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And I think, that often we have a real fear associated with trying something new. What if I fail? What if it's not perfect? I think sometimes I often say, just start, give it a go, have a crack. What's the worst that can happen? You've given something new a try, and if it doesn't work, well, so what? Try something else. If it does work, well, you've done something, and you feel great about it. It's not the end of the world to try something out of your comfort zone. And I think the beauty of being in your 40s is that you can start to not worry so much about that. I know when I started my blog and I connected with that side of myself that loved to write again after so many years, there was fear associated with it, but there was another part of me that said, oh, well, I'm doing this for me. If it works, well and good. If it doesn't, well, I've still done it for me and I feel good because I'm writing again. So, that's a great thing in itself.
I love how you linked that back. You made the statement before, which I absolutely agree with, that as we get older, we tend not to worry so much about what other people think. We can still be pretty hard on ourselves, let's be honest, in terms of our expectations and our goals, but we can begin to let go because we realise that other people's opinions don't have to kill us. I mean, Personally, I'm the comparison queen as my particular inner critic, and I've always suffered from comparisonitis throughout my life, but that seems to be lessening somewhat. And so if we recognise that, or if we can lean into that and then accept that, of course there's going to be some fear around trying something new. That's normal. But that question that you said, what's the worst that could happen? And can I accept that? Yep, ain't going to kill me. So leap in. And then that personal satisfaction that you can get as you're referring to your blog, that the fact that you were writing again, we can't underestimate the power of proving to ourselves that we can do something like that. When you flex those self-belief muscles, then they get bigger and stronger so you can try more things.
Absolutely. It is so freeing to let go of that, that inner mean girl in your head telling you that you can't do it, or that, you'll fail, or, you're not as good as everyone else there. It's just not true. It's just everyone, we all have our own individual and authentic voice, and that voice, I think, deserves to be heard in whatever capacity it is that, it lights you up and gives you purpose. But yeah, you need to kick that inner mean girl to the curb for sure.
With you in particular, you've gone down this path of actually turning your own turning point, your own next chapter, into a business. So can you talk to us about that? When did that sort of kernel of desire start to flourish, that you decided, rather than just leaving it as a blog, which a lot of us can do, getting those thoughts out there into the world, what was the trigger point that made you think, no, I want to take this further?
I think there were two things. I think one, I saw a lot of women like me who just mums I know through school or friends or people I'd meet who were very similar to I was, in that they may have had a corporate background or been doing a job for many years, they've had kids, they're just not finding the same joy or passion in what they once did before now, and it seems to become a real I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but it does seem to become a turning point that a lot of women use turning 40 to really take stock of where they are in their lives. And so I saw I wasn't the only one going through this little existential crisis of life, and that sort of planted a seed in my head. And then I thought, well, I've got this background. I've done a lot of study in psychology and some work, and I thought, I've always been one of those people who, I've got a background in some counselling and training and stuff as well, and I thought, well, I've got those skills. I can sort of combine that with this sort of, I guess, niche in the market that I see. And then I discovered coaching, which I absolutely love as a concept, in that, it doesn't really matter with coaching what's gone on in your past. We've all got our stories that have gone on, but really with coaching, you're looking at, where you are now and where you want to get to. So it's a very forward-looking thing, and that really appealed to me, to be able to help other women, sort of see where they're actually at and where they want to get to, and then help provide them with some steps to get there and set some inspiring goals to help them do it. So, it became a real passion for me. It just seemed to all click together that, this is exactly, what I want to do with the rest of my life. So, and I probably haven't felt that before in my life. I've done lots of different things in my life, and I've spent many a year studying lots of different degrees and courses. But this seems to be the thing that I felt, finally at the ripe old age of 44, I'm really in my zone of genius, I think, and that feels really good. So it's never too late, ladies.
No, not at all, and that's really encouraging to hear. And the statistics are showing us that so many women are dovetailing into exactly what you're saying, that more women are starting their businesses past 40 than they are actually in the earlier years. And because you've got that mixture of experience and then fresh passion, it seems to be a really dynamic and a very successful mix. But if we look at the, so you found your passion, you did that blending of, so you've done a bit of an inventory as to what are the skills that I had, or, that I've already got, and what can I add to that to actually start this new enterprise. So you went and got obviously some coaching skills there, and then the actual starting of the business. What was involved in that for you? Just because we will definitely have listeners here who are going, maybe I can do that too.
Yeah. Oh, look, you can. And I have to say, I did it all myself. So I did my website myself. I really did it on the cheap. I didn't spend a lot of money on it. I read a lot. I researched a lot. I looked what a lot of other people were doing. I saw what I liked and what I didn't like. I knew with life coaching that there are a lot of people out there who are life coaches, and I wanted to present myself authentically, but also have a point of difference. So I focus on women on the other side of 40, which is perfect for me because that's me as well. I've been where my clients are at the moment, so I know I can help them. And but in terms of actually starting my business, it was just starting. It was just backing myself, I guess, just really setting up a website, doing the training that I did, and just starting, telling people that I am a life coach, that this is what I'm doing, and letting my friends and family know. I think often I hear a lot of women saying, I haven't let people on my personal Facebook page know what I'm doing yet, or I haven't told all my friends and family about what I'm offering, and I'm like, well, tell them, they're your biggest cheerleaders and supporters. So, but sometimes we're worried about what they'll think about us or what we're doing, or we're taking a risk in life. But life should be about taking a few risks. And again, what's the worst that can happen? They say they're not interested, or they don't want to be a part of what you're doing. It still is worth trying and giving it a go. So really, I think it just comes down to just starting. And you can, once you start, you don't have to have it all your ducks lined up in a row. It doesn't have to be perfect. I wouldn't say my website's perfect yet either, but you can spend the money on that amazing website a few years down the track if you want to. It's better to have something there and start. Start your Facebook page. Those sort of things are the simple things that you can do to just to start to build momentum and get your name out there.
That is so reassuring to hear. Thank you for being so open about that, because the old perfectionism of having to get everything, as you say, all the ducks in the row, is something that can trip us up and stop us from actually taking that initial action. Because I hugely believe it's an evolution. It's not a revolution. So there's a fantastic little piece of software or website that you can find online called the Wayback Machine, which I've spoken to a few people about. And what that actually does is you can go pop someone's website in there, and it's taken snapshots of how that site looked 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. And it is fascinating to see when you take some of the, let's say, the big names in the coaching arena and actually see how they started exactly like you and I.
That's right. And people really, there are lots of slick websites out there, but, ultimately, I guess what chooses someone to work with someone else is not all the bells and whistles, but it's the person you connect with as well. So, that's the main part of it for me. So, yeah, of course, you like to have things looking nice, but that shouldn't stop you from actually doing what you want to do.
Not at all. And that point you just made there is a vital one, is that people, especially when you have a personal brand like yours, and I love The Other Side of 40. I just think that's a fantastic name. It's very catchy, and it very quickly communicates who is your audience, your intended audience, which is perfect. So that type of idea of you're a personal brand, people are connecting with you, and that's where sharing your story, and as you just have, as we're talking, but also on your site, that allows people that opportunity to connect with you and to feel into, is this the sort of person that I resonate with? I think that's a huge part of putting yourself out there into the world, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Even yesterday, I posted on my my Facebook business page, The Other Side of 40, a little anecdote and a selfie of me sitting at the cricket watching my son, and I was feeling so bored. It was so long, the match, and my daughters were getting a bit bored, but. Anyway, and I was thinking about I want to go home and have a coffee and read the paper, and I've got to put the washing on, I need to do my emails, and I need to do this and that. And then I suddenly took stock of where I was sitting. I was sitting on some beautiful grass. It was a beautiful shady tree. It was a glorious summer day in Melbourne, and my daughter was doing cartwheels next to me. My other daughter had her head in my lap, and I looked across at my son standing there playing cricket, and I thought, how blessed am I? You know, what a amazing opportunity I have right in this moment to feel joy and feel so connected into the present. And once I did that, I really enjoyed the rest of my time there. And so I went home and I popped a post on about it, and I nearly didn't. I nearly thought, no one will want to hear about me sitting at the cricket. Well, I think, so far I've had about 150 likes on that post, and it's reached over 5,000 people. So it just goes to show that when people relate to your story and when you're being honest and authentic, I mean, I could be a life coach and pop up the inspiring quotes, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I think they help people. But what people really want is something they can nod their head to and say, "Oh, I get that. Yeah, I can relate to that." And that's just about being, I guess, just putting yourself out there and trusting that people want to hear what you have to say.
And recognizing that not everybody, you don't have to connect with and appeal to everybody. If you're just you, and obviously there's business practices behind it, but if you are projecting you, then your people are able to connect with you because you're showing your authenticity. And you will attract to you, as you're saying, you notice that there was women that went through the same sort of transition as you, that existential mid-40s point. Right? I like to think of it as a midlife expansion as opposed to a midlife crisis. So
I like that a lot. I'm going to use that one.
You're very welcome to it. So you are attracting women towards you who recognise that you have walked in their shoes.
Yes,
and to me, that is very much the heart of the Next Chapter business. I've been there, and I've learned some stuff. Can I share it with you? That's why I think a big part of it is almost a mentorship role.
Yeah, that's right. And, going back to what you were saying earlier about that comparisonitis thing that a lot of us like to play, there are so many people on the internet clambering for space and for your attention, and there's always going to be someone who looks brighter and shinier than you, and they'll appeal to some people, but you have your, like I said before, your zone of genius as well, where you'll attract the right people for you. So someone will be watching what you're doing and reading your blog or looking at your Facebook posts and going, yeah, she gets me, she gets where I'm at, and they're the sort of people that you will end up attracting, and that's what you want, to have a wholehearted business where you're working with people that you connect with and that that you can truly help as well and guide.
Completely. So really the moral of the story here is, start with what you have from where you are as you are today.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I heard that somewhere. I think it's sort of by osmosis got into my brain. But really,
no, that's right.
That's what we need, and then you will evolve as you go along, and we'll tackle your one onto the side as well. What's the worst that could happen? It may take a little while to grow, but to listen to that inner voice, to work out, hey, I don't want to do this, but I do want to try that. That's what I encourage everybody to start exploring in their next chapter. I know a big part of what you talk about is the need for us, obviously, to reignite that spark for life, but to bring more fun into what we do, that it's not all serious. We need to have some of that joie de vivre. So how do you go about, or how would you recommend to us to bring that aspect of fun into everything that we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a big believer in having fun in life. I think life is short, so we should be having fun. And I think often as you get older and when you're a mum, you can often become the fun police. So I think sometimes you really have to consciously invite fun into your life. And I think fun is very underrated. We watch children have fun and, we forget to do it ourselves sometimes. So I think like anything else, you need to make fun. You need to make time. You need to make the space in your life to have fun. So, it could be as simple as reconnecting to what you used to do when you were young. It could be that riding a bike is fun for you, or jumping on a trampoline, or things like that, or just making time to play if you've got kids, playing with your kids or playing with your dog, or having a tickle fest or something like that. All those sort of things that you can do that sometimes I'm too tired, or I should be doing something else, or I'm looking at my Facebook on my phone. Just being in the present, in the here and moment, and connecting with what's around you can lead to fun. And other ways, reconnecting again, putting down the phone and, well, you can pick up the phone and call somebody, but putting down the phone and not texting them, but connecting with friends. And, I know what I love sometimes is catching up with my girlfriends and just having a regular girls' night where we'll just, sit around and have a coffee or a glass of wine and just, laugh. I mean, laughing uproariously is some of the best medicine in the world. So, definitely finding the things that you like to do and just doing them, making the time to do them, turning on the music and having a dance around your lounge room. That's fun. Getting your kids involved. They may look at you like you're crazy, but you'll be having fun. So, just making time to do it is the most important thing.
I think you're absolutely right. It is time, and it is prioritizing it and thinking this is important because, as you just said, laughing, and this has been documented that it is actually a bloody good medicine.
Yeah.
It can make an enormous difference to us. And so, to me, this is like flexing the fun muscle. You got to use it or lose it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I remember reading a stat somewhere that kids, young children laugh something like 180 times a day, and we laugh like 18 times or something like that.
No, for sure. It's crazy, and yet there are moments for fun through the day if you're only looking for them. But I think we all get caught up in our busyness of our lives and our to-do lists. That you really do sometimes just have to be conscious to look for those moments and expand on them. And I know when my household's tired and grumpy and everyone, I often set the tone in my house like many a mum does. So if I'm feeling a bit stressed and tired and grumpy, then it tends to flow through the whole house. But if I reset that, if I just grab someone as they go past and pull a funny face or say something silly, it just changes the whole mood of the house, and we all lighten up and there's a lot of power in mum being a fun mum sometimes.
I agree. I love that idea that, I often refer to it as that we're the emotional barometers in the home. But I love that idea of being able to reset it and just deciding in the moment I am going to respond differently. And we can do that not even just to affect the people around us, but we can do that to ourselves as well. If you're feeling that fear that we were discussing earlier in our conversation, or that apprehension or that concern about, can I do this? Am I really up for this? Who do I think I am? That stuff that can come up. Just stop, be aware that it's there, and then make a conscious decision to go, damn it, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to let myself expand, because what's the worst that could happen? I might even have some fun.
That's true, yeah. That's right. And that goes for that inner mean girl in your mind too. You don't have to, she can say what she wants to say, and you can say, thank you, I've heard what you have to say, but now I'm choosing to ignore that and I'm going to give it a go anyway. So that's right. You can always sort of reset and go in a different direction.
You can. I guess we could even flip it entirely. Instead of thinking always, what's the worst that could happen? Could I live with that? Wow, what's the best that could happen? What if this actually worked? What if I actually remember having this moment of personal moment here. I was in the shower late last year, and I was having this epiphany of, well, what if I approached everything in life from the perspective of, imagine this going really well. What different energy would I bring to it? What more to make this work really well? What might I do? That could bring a totally different energy to whatever we're focusing on, be it our relationships with our kids, sitting on the side of the cricket and realizing that you're actually in a real good spot, or going, hey, I do want to start a business that is based around leveraging my life experiences and what I've gone through to help others. Wow, imagine if that went really well.
And I think sometimes there can be a fear associated with that as well. I think, sometimes when you think, wow, if I do start this business, what happens if it does become successful? People will really see me, will they find me out? Will they think, that can be quite a fearful concept for some people as well. So again, that's a story that you're telling yourself, and that you need to check with yourself as well. Because you can achieve amazing things, but you have to just check in with yourself every now and then, not let those stories run away.
Yeah, not let the stories from the past pave the way for the future. They can act as a foundation for us, but they don't have to dictate the future. I'm absolutely all for being aware of those stories and deciding to, write a new chapter.
Very nice.
Didn't that segue around pretty nicely?
That was lovely.
Well, I also love the fact that you have provided us with, as with all the podcast episodes, there's a resource associated with it. And because we both agree on how important it is to inject that fun, that lightness into everything that we're doing, you've provided us with a lovely 4 easy ways to invite more fun into our life today. A wee resource guide, which if you're listening right now, which obviously you are, you'll be able to download that off my website. You just go to angelaraspis.com/17, that's 17, and the word download. So that's angelaraspis.com/17 download. And thank you very much, Melissa, for letting us have a copy of that so that we can flex those fun muscles and inject a little bit more of that frivolity into our life.
Absolutely. I want to see some YouTube dancing videos.
That's a great place to start. Well, tell me, my lovely, thank you so much for the time you spent with us. But if people want to go a little bit further and connect with you, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. You can connect with me on my website. So that's www.melissajeffcott.com. Or you can find me on Facebook, The Other Side of 40. And I like taking photos on Instagram @MelJeffcott.
Awesome. I'll make sure that all of those links are on the podcast page on my website so people can track you down in the nicest possible way.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you again, lovely. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with for everyone who's listening today, to just provide them with that little spark of inspiration to move forward and whilst they're on the other side of 40 and where that could take them?
Yeah, sure. I just would say to you that, if you're feeling called to try something or do something new in your life, then start to explore that. Be curious. Be someone who looks for new things. And when you find something that you're interested in, explore it a little further. Give it a go. See where it takes you. It might be just that you rediscover a love of painting or drawing. It might be just a creative hobby that you discover that lights you up. It might be a new business that you want to start. But anything that brings you closer to your purpose and your passion and joy for life is a great thing. And really, it's all about being curious and just starting.
I agree. Curiosity is what opens so many doors for us. Thank you for those words of wisdom.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a delight. And thank you, my lovely listeners, for tuning into this podcast. I appreciate you taking the time and the energy in your day to have a listen to these stories that we're bringing you from wholehearted women from all around the world who are stepping into their next chapters. And I really hope that you've found some inspiration today with this conversation that we've been having. And if you have, I would love you to share the podcast so that this information and these experiences can make it into the lives and ears of more women moving into their next chapters. You can share the episode through the podcast page on my website, or you may even take the time to pop across to iTunes and leave a lovely review. The more reviews we have, the more visible the show becomes so that more women can tune in. So thanks very much again, and I look forward to reconnecting with you in the next episode. Have a lovely day. This is Angela Raspis. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Pop over to angelaraspas.com to subscribe to the show and leave a review. And whilst you're there, you can also enjoy valuable free resources, including show notes and downloads, along with the Next Chapter community, where you can connect with other wholehearted women on the same journey as you. We'd love to welcome and support you as your next chapter unfolds. See you next time.